Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May meeting of the Mountain View Computer Users Group. I'm John Buno, the president, and today we've got one heck of a meeting going for us. So, do we have any new members today? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Ann Walker, new member. Hi, Ann. No,
Thank you so much for joining us. How'd you hear about us?
just looking through the internet where they list all the activities that are going on.
Great. So that one works. Welcome. We hope you joined today because we've got a packed presentation today. And we do have a sponsor this month, Carol McLean, the candle lady, who's sitting over here in the corner. And let's see, we have a May fragrance called Seashore, which I assume smells like the sea. Yes? Yeah.
A little better than low tide, but yes.
Yeah. And then a Memorial Day pomegranate lemonade. Oh, that sounds wonderful. Two of my best flavors.
I know exactly what it is. It says it's Airy Adelaide's Blue Kelp, Celtic Sea Salt, Lotus Dewy Freesia, Sheer, Vanilla Orchid, Whetstone, Aquaic Amber, and Sea Glass Musk.
Now, Carolyn sells these candles, have been doing it for quite a while, and they make great gifts. They really are. And they last 3 times longer than forever. So it's not something that, a lot of the candles that you buy, dissipate in an hour or two. We finally, the citron we got from you, 2 years ago? Finally, we're at the bottom. And I'll probably have to buy a new one, I think. There's her website, scent-team.com, her phone number, and you can reach her at candle-lady@cox.net. And please, if you're looking for gifts, they make great gifts. Okay, today's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about the MVCUG, what we are, what we have available to you. We have tips and favorite applications, timely tech topics, and boy, do we have some interesting tech topics this month. We'll have a Q&A, and following that, our feature presentation, which all of you are here for today, security best practices. Today is online security best practices. We'll be covering passwords, two-factor authentication, passkeys, authenticators, what it's all about, what is good, what may not be good, why you should do certain things. Next month, backups, maintenance, data recovery, how it works. For those of you who Time Machine, how does Time Machine work on the Mac? What are backups on the iPhone? When you get that message saying you haven't backed up, what's that all about? We'll also talk about online backups. And then in July, we're going to have home networking. First up, chaos across U.S. universities. Program called Canvas Learning Management System, which is used by almost every major university in the United States. What happened? Group cyber hackers broke into Canvas LMS, took it over. So all grading has been shut down. Assignments have been shut down. You can't turn anything but financials, which is not handled by the LMS. It's in chaos right now. Who is affected? All students and all instructors. Why it matters? Waiting to get a grade. The consequences of this, VA benefits, grades get turned in. What is the VA going to do? Answered at this point. Scholarships the same way. Needs the same way. And what they did and how they did it is still not quite clear. Is you go to log into your system, all of a sudden a screen pops up and it's ransomware. If you want to get in, you've got to pay us. You have to be paid through Bitcoin, which is untraceable. The solution, unclear at this time. So far, the last I heard, Mike, you may have heard something different. Last I've heard, they have not been able to crack it. So they don't know what they're going to do. They're not too sure where the break-in happened because it affected the entire LMS.
Called Instructure that runs Canvas LMS at other concerns. And they actually hacked Instructure. And so it's part of what they went after there. My understanding is that the best advice right now is go to backups, is what they're looking. Students themselves, if they're going on to a system that's been affected, all they see is we're down for routine maintenance. The ransomware thing that's up above in the instruction.
It was showing up as, student councils. Yeah, after you told me about it, I went and did some heavy research, and yeah, students are seeing it on their screens.
Bad is they were actually hacked on May 2nd, and May 3rd, instructors said, "Yeah, we went in, we dealt with it." And then it was on Wednesday that, uh, the hacker group said, "Yeah, they think they fixed it. They weren't bad again." But and then they really went public with it saying, "Okay, don't mess with us." And that's when they took everything down on Thursday.
Okay, now this is some very interesting news. There is a proposed Apple settlement. This is by Apple for $250 million. The Apple has proposed there's a class action suit against Apple because of their claims of what the Apple intelligence was going to do in Siri that were not met. Apple has not admitted to anything. They didn't say they did anything wrong, but they want to get this done and over with because class action suits are very expensive. The settlement still needs final court approval. The courts have not approved it. It has been proposed. Who's eligible? It is mainly U.S. buyers of the iPhone 16.
Only US buyers. I think I saw that someplace.
Well, without seeing the actual settlement, it's unclear because I've seen both sides. It says mainly U.S. buyers, only U.S. buyers, and we're not sure yet until we see which has not come out. If you purchase an iPhone 16, all models, an iPhone 15 Pro Max, Pro or Pro Max, during a specified period of time, which we believe is between 2024 and 2025, you may receive anywhere from $25 to $95 per device. Apple stock hits a new all-time high. They closed yesterday at $294.76 per share, which means they're now a $4.3 trillion company, and they're heading towards becoming the first $5 trillion company. Now, if many of you remember a year ago, they just broke the $1 trillion mark. Now they're up to $4 trillion in about a year. They're skyrocketing. iOS 26.5 will add end-to-end encryption for RCS, which is what Android uses. So now you'll be able to send messages to Android users and just about anybody who uses RCS, and it'll be encrypted so people can't break into it. Because right now, your text messages can be captured and read by somebody else. Once it's encrypted, virtually impossible. Now, I'm telling you this so you don't panic. Many of the overseas routers are being banned in the US. How many of you will be affected? Seriously, not anyone will be, because it's new routers that won't be allowed to be sold. Most of the ones that we use have been grandfathered, so you don't have to worry about it.
Well, if they're already in this country,
Yeah, if they were in this country, they've been grandfathered. From now on, all routers have to be FCC certified, which is a good thing. So, but if you hear about the routers being banned, I'm telling you this so you don't panic and say, oh my goodness, I'm going to lose my internet. Interestingly, the Cox modems, which most people have, already carry the SEC certification. At least I do not know about Allo. The long run, your routers will be safer, but fewer, because a lot of the routers coming out of China are questionable. This was a biggie. Tim Cook, who has been the CEO of Apple for a long time,
15 years coming this fall.
has elected to step down effective September. He's up there in age, and being a CEO of a $4 trillion company is not an easy job. He will still be on the board of directors. John Turnus will become the new CEO. What we know about him is he's very hardware oriented. He's been the brains behind almost every hardware device Apple's put out in the past, was it 10 years, something like that?
Yeah, I think he's been there too.
He has a lot of Apple experience. I mean, he's been with Apple for a long time, and he was one of the top choices to succeed Tim Cook, because we knew Tim was going to be stepping down eventually. And John Turnus,
That's how old John Turnus is, 51. So he's taking over about the same age that Tim Cook did.
he's very young, he's very ambitious, and we think this is going to be a really good turn, because I know when it was announced, Apple stock shot up almost $20 a share within a week. So the industry is looking at it as a good thing. Apple is allegedly going to be introducing a lot of hardware products coming up in the next 2 months. Tips of the month. Yes, I did. We're going to have two very
This actually came up last last month there was a question about passcodes, the lengths of passcodes and their effectiveness, and it came up about you don't have to have just numbers as a passcode. This is for on the iPhone. I think there's probably on Android you can do this similar thing. We went to try to demo it, but because of another security feature, which I'm going to piggyback another tip into this tip, I couldn't do it live. But I figured out how I can do it. The reason why I couldn't do it live is because there is an advanced security setting in the settings app. And if you scroll down to privacy and security and go into that, and you go all the way to the bottom of that group of settings, or close to it, next to the bottom, it says stolen device protection. It was a security feature that Apple added 2 or 3 years ago in response to a rash of stolen iPhones from like bars and restaurants and stuff, where teams were like, there was somebody distracting somebody, getting them to unlock their phone, and somebody else was watching from a distance to capture their login code. And then they would grab that phone at some point and leave, and then they'd log in, and then they'd change their Apple ID and steal, they'd basically get all their stuff. So Apple added this stolen device protection, which means that if you're not in a familiar location, it won't allow a password change or a passcode change. So you notice I have it turned on. I think it may be on by default, especially with new phones now. But I thought, well, I'll just turn it off. It authenticates. And, oh, it's still going to wait an hour. Oh, I thought
I think you need to make a video of this.
Oh, I did. Actually, I did. But I had audio problems, and I didn't get any of my narration for the thing. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Okay, well, let me see. I'm just going to start it, and maybe we'll come back to it in an hour. Oh, how come it didn't stay? Okay. All right. So what was the other one? Callback reminders.
Callback.
So there was a thread in the mail list about this. Don't see my phone app. Here we go. So in the phone app, oh, you know what? I don't think I have.
Bit of voicemail.
Yeah. No, I can't use this phone for this because I don't have a cellular plan on this phone.
Oh. Okay. Well, what
But
we're gonna do?
we can look at. We can see it here. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to this. This is the new phone look. They have in iOS 26. You can choose between the classic view, which was prior to iOS 26, and it just gives you a list of all your recent calls, and then you can go to your contacts. You have a list of favorites. You got your keypad to punch in a thing, and then you got voicemail, which I don't have on this phone because I don't have a cellular plan on this phone. This is just an extra phone. However, you can also use the new unified look, which adds filtering automatically to your call lists. So it shows you a bunch of most recently or most used contacts at the top with larger thumbnails, and then a list of recent calls. You still have contacts at the bottom. You still have your keypad for your phone. And there's a new screen unknown callers. Well, I'm going to turn that off because I don't get calls on this phone, but we're not talking about that feature today. If you go to the little filter menu, top right, those 3 lines, you can still get to your missed calls and your voicemails and any spam that your carrier filters out for you. So in any of these views, if there's someone here that called you specifically in voicemail, but I'll have to show you in one of these other lists, but it looks the same in voicemail. There's Maureen, I'll do Maureen. If you swipe slowly to the left, you get a couple of buttons. You got a red delete trash button, which deletes this call out of the list, doesn't delete the contact. And then there's a blue button, which allows you to set a reminder to call that person back so that you don't forget to return their call if you happen to miss it. Or in the voicemail message, if you're listening to the voicemail message and you want to call them back, but you can't do it right then, you can set a reminder. And so you can do an hour, you can say tonight, and I think it defaults to 6 or 7 p.m., something like that. Tomorrow, it'll default to like 9 o'clock in the morning. And then there's one, remind me later, where you can set a custom time. You can, a date, time, whenever. And you can, make it urgent. You can, if you want to be reminded to call your mother or your granddaughter or something every month, you could set a repeat, every week or every month. And it'll put this in your reminders app. And you can choose any list that you already have set up in your reminders app to put it into. So there was some confusion because some people were seeing something different in this slide over. And it depended on what you're doing. I think in the phone, any of these lists is going to be the same. So I can look at recents. I can set a reminder to call John here if I want. But if you're in a different app, these same features will work. If you're in messages, it's a slow slide over, but it's not a reminder to call. It looks like a do not disturb or alarm or something. What does that mean? Oh, yeah, I have a do not disturb thing setting, so I must have had you blocked. Probably. So this slide over gives you some options depending on the context and the app that you're using it in. And in the Mail app, it will also show you some other options. And that was another one that was, we'll just search for it. There was another one. No, I don't need notifications on here. So in the Mail app, you've got even more options. You can flag it, you can trash it, and then there's a more button that gives you even more. And one of the options under more is also remind me. So you can have reminder set to reply to an email if you want to.
Now, I looked at just one thing. The urgent setting in reminders is critical because if you turn that on, when that reminder comes due, regardless of the mode you are in, your phone will go berserk, making a very loud. So
that's for the phone callback reminder.
Even if you have it on sleep in the middle of the night because you accidentally put down AM instead of PM, it will wake up the dead.
Even if you have like a sleep focus going?
Yep.
Wow.
I caught that out the hard way. That's exactly what I did. Instead of, I had a reminder set up 2, and I just blanked out at 2 a.m. instead of 2 p.m. So 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone goes, and I jumped about 3 feet up in the air, pulled out all my weapons, and started firing. Right? But yeah, urgent, definitely. I use urgent all the time because quite often I'll have one of the do not disturb modes on,
Oh yeah.
and it'll break through that and remind me to do something that's critical. Go ahead, Barry.
So you can also find some other options by swiping the other direction. So if you swipe right in the Mail app, you have other options on the left-hand side of that item. You can tell it to flag it as unread. Now here's where it's a remind me. And these can be configured to some degree. And it'd be device specific, I believe. But like I have on my other phone, I have it when I do this, I have a move item instead of unread. And I can file it into another mailbox. So you have to go into mail settings to do that. Anyway, any questions? Oh, the other thing about those swipes, well, I'll go back to the call list here. You can't swipe right in the phone app, but if you swipe, as I said, you swipe slowly, it just gives you those options. If you swipe real fast, you can just delete it immediately. You've been deleted from my list anyway. So
When you delete something, it's almost always kept in a separate file for a number of days that you can get to. That's reasons.
well, yeah, voicemail you can retrieve, delete it. I don't think you can. It's just a list of recent calls. I can still call John because he's one of my common contacts. He's right there. I can just tap his face. Stay there, calling John.
This is really cool. Okay. I have a bunch of images right here. My wife's yard sale. If you click the space bar, it automatically opens Quick Look, and the arrow keys work to go down and shows you what's in each of the pictures. These are some of the slides from the new presentation on the internet. It will show every file out there. And I did not know this until Barry made his presentation. That's how Quick Look works. And if you want from Quick Look, you can open it in preview and modify it. But it is great to find out, a real quick look at something. And the arrows work back and forth.
So select close the Quick Look and select several, 4 or 5 of those all together, not just images. Yeah. Now, no, don't go into Quick Look yet.
Okay.
Hold the Option key and go into Quick Look. Option space.
Oh.
It gives you a full screen slideshow. And when you bring up the heads up by moving your mouse here and click on the little grid, you can also get an index sheet. And then you can click on any of them to see full screen and go back and forth that way too.
And our first one is Mike on tech news sites. There's a trick for you. Okay, many of you know that I'm a big fan of Pestlet, the recipe program. Well, if you come across a recipe in Apple News Plus, which there's a lot of, Pestle normally can't recognize them. However, if you go to the web page, read original article, that takes you to a web page. Pestle recognizes those perfectly. And also, you can use Pestle right out of notes. If you have a recipe in notes, you can get saved to cookbook, and it'll read the text. Not if there's a picture in it, it won't recognize the picture. It has to be pure text. It'll put it right into your recipe. My favorite. Originally, I told Barry, I said, well, I really don't have, the only favorite I have right now is a CAD program I've been using. Then I realized I do have a favorite. I have been using ChatGPT, the latest version, daily. It has become my unpaid assistant, and I use it as an assistant. mainly to generate visuals. I cannot draw a straight line with a ruler. If I want a visual, I either go and get clip art, which I hate, stock photos, which is even worse because they never have what I want, or I sit down with Chat and Chat and I go and create the exact visual I want. I also I come up with the presentations. I will normally record my presentation. I have a program called Mac Whisperer that converts it into text. I feed that into ChatGPT and tell me, did I get anything wrong? Did I leave anything out? Invariably, they come back and say, what about this? And something I totally forgot. I will feed it that information as a creative visual from this. And then it comes back about 75% of the time with exactly what I wanted. Sometimes it doesn't. It is not 100% foolproof. You have to be careful and watch it because it is notorious for not remembering what it's already done. So you have to be careful about that. Create a visual in the same style of the one you just created. Well, if it's immediately, you say, in the previous discussion, use that, it won't. The latest one, it's gotten a lot faster. It now gives you references as to where the information came from. Like when I was going through on the Canvas, I went to ChatGPT and I said, tell me about it. Well, it came back with all kinds of information and the sources as to where it got it from. Most of it USA Today. Well, that's a fairly reliable source. They had some of it, I never heard of it. You click on it and it takes you to that source and you can be the judge of it. It has become my assistant. Now, is it a good assistant? No. Is it affordable? $8 a month. Most of the time when you go up to find out how much ChatGPT is going to cost, you'll get $20 a month. I can't afford $20 a month. However, there's a hidden one, which so far I have not found any limits to, except it will not generate video. And it's $8 a month. Well, for $8 a month, I'm getting unlimited visuals. Everything I want to do. Instead of using Google search, I use ChatGPT to my searches now because it gives me back narrative. So I don't have to go through all these URLs to finally find out that nothing that I wanted is there. I now do one search and it is related to what I'm talking about. I also use it on programs I'm not familiar with. I want to do this. Give you an example. I use a program called Motion, which is a special effects generator by Apple. I've never used a particle emitter. Could I have gone up on YouTube and go through a whole bunch of videos trying to find the one that does what I wanted to do? Sure, I could have. Instead, I went to ChatGPT and said, I want to use particle emitters to do this. Give me a step-by-step guide. Generated it. So now I have specific to exactly what I wanted to do. Is it always 100% correct? No. It goes out and sometimes it's versions way before the one I have. So you have to be specific. I am using Motion 5. Give me a step-by-step guide on particle emitters to do this. And it does. And I used that one last night. And it was right on. It gave me exactly what I wanted to do. And it made recommendations to make it better because it remembered the presentation I had done on the internet. Why don't you do this? Okay, I didn't even know I could do that. Or, oh, that is a really good idea. It's very conversational now. I'll sit and talk with it for hours. And honestly, it's passing the Turing test. Now, the Turing test was Alan Turing, when artificial intelligence is become legit. If you can sit and feed information and you can't tell if it's a human or a machine, then you have artificial intelligence. ChatGPT is conversational, especially if you turn on the voice function where it's talking to you. You can use voice recognition with it. Yes, ma'am.
So, if you use the free version, is it true that you could only have a certain number of interactions with ChatGPT and then you have to have a subscription to it?
Yeah.
How many is it a day? Anybody know?
I don't remember.
But it isn't a whole lot.
I think you said you found that you were being limited to like 3 times a day.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like free. And like, say you do a picture and then you say, no, change this picture. You only can do one more.
Yeah.
But it's not 3 pictures a day.
Oh.
So it didn't want.
However, there is a workaround for that. If you go in on your Mac, and this is the reason you get a Mac, Carolyn, and use the AI feature, there's down at the bottom of the menu, what's that called? I can't remember right now. The proofreading. Well, let me show you. Just create a new document. And now, if I go up here and use writing tools panel, okay, it comes up down here under compose. This is ChatGPT for free. There is no limit. Now, the only limit I have found with it is I'm going to see if I can do it.
So does Windows have this?
No.
They have their Copilot integrated into your application.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've just never used it. But is that considered ChatGPT?
No, it is a
No.
different AI model.
Okay,
It's
so if
AI
you have a
based.
subscription for 365, Microsoft, whatever, then it's integrated into it and you don't pay extra for it.
No, the full function of Copilot requires Microsoft Premium usage.
Okay.
So you get some of the stuff. With the
Yeah.
subscription.
I said, create an image of a senior citizen. And it also comes up here with suggestions of how I want to do. And that does not count against, that alone makes getting a Mac worth it.
For images, we actually found that Gemini's for Google Nano Banana actually works really good for images.
Now, Nano Banana, the Google AI Lab is incredibly amazing. It's free. Nano Banana is one of the best image generators I have found.
A single prompt. She wanted something about for painting. And she gave it a single prompt and it came out beautifully with exactly what she wanted. Needing that.
You didn't even have to refine it. It was perfect. Yeah. What's it called again?
Nano Banana. It's their image generator. NANO banana. They also have a video generator, which I have not been able to try yet. I just haven't had the time. But it is very, very good. They also have paid models, a subscription service. But so far, the freebies, I have not found the limit to. I just find it inconvenient to use because it's on a website. And sometimes it's very, very, very slow.
Well, what about the Google Gemini app now? Can you do Nano Banana prompts in Gemini app? Because there's Gemini app on both iOS and on the Mac now. I think it's fairly recently they introduced the Gemini app.
I mean, I'll just make a couple other comments. I use Spock, which is a lot less as what you said. It works really, really well. The other thing I'll mention, as you said, it's very conversational. They've actually come up with a term for people that get involved with AI far enough where they believe that they're actually talking to a person. They're calling it AI psychosis. So that is where we actually carbon after the AI. They become convinced it's actually human. And unfortunately, that leads out. So that they'll start discussing suicide, and the AI might encourage that.
Q&A. Does anybody have a question or an answer? If you give us an answer, we'll generate a question. Yes, sir.
I put in all my credentials for ChatGPT and it just loops back to the login screen. It doesn't give me an error message. It doesn't say that I used up my chances, with bad credentials. It doesn't say anything, even goes to my TIA 2FA. All right. I give it the number from the phone and it goes around in a circle and it goes back to the login screen. So it's like I sort of like written off ChatGPT because I said, well, if you're not the only fish you'll see, and I go to Claude, I go to Rock, I go to Copilot, I'm like later for you, like why is ChatGPT treating you that way?
Okay, I can answer the question. It happened to me too. And you have to uninstall the program and reinstall it.
So delete ChatGPT.com. I mean .ai. GPT.com? No. ChatGPT, what is it? .ai. Is it? Yeah. I go to the website.
I don't have an answer to that one. I've never seen that problem.
Yeah. It's on platform, but
Is this out for Windows or for Mac?
I would guess that there's one for Windows because there is one for the Mac and one for the iPhone.
Yeah. You have ChatGPT is an application, which is what I use. You also have ChatGPT Atlas, which is a web browser that has ChatGPT interface built into it. And so if you put up in the search window a question, it'll come back and generate the answer to that question.
It has an app that you put on the desktop for both Mac OS and for Windows.
I would have been very surprised if it didn't. But why ChatGPT.com is doing that, I don't know.
Using it, it was wonderful. So I kept on using it. I guess maybe I hit my lifetime limit or something.
We know all we need to know a lot.
But what I would do is, do you have another email address you can use? create a new account on a different email address and see what happens. You could have hit some type of artificial limit. Any other questions? It is time to take a break. A practical and fun.
Have you noticed how everything these days asks for a password?
And now it's not just passwords, it's your face, your fingerprint, even your voice. But how reliable are they? And what happens when they don't work? And what are passkeys? And how about this thing called an authenticator?
If you catch a cold or buy new glasses, and can you still access your accounts, your phone, your information?
What can go wrong?
And how to stay secure when they do.
Meet Bob and Linda. There are two guinea pigs for this presentation. Bob reuses the same password. Linda writes hers on sticky notes. What could possibly go wrong with that? Bob uses Gulf 123 everywhere. Problem is, that is easy to guess or steal. Bob's email gets hacked because he reused passwords. And then one of the things that can happen, someone managed to get into my email account at GoDaddy and change the security. And all of a sudden, I find that my email has been turned off because I had sent out over 50,000 emails in 1 week. They were using my email account to spam. And it took me almost a week to get it reinstated. And I don't reuse passwords and how they managed to do that. Now, let's talk about, we know about passwords. What constitutes a good password? Anything over 12 characters. It contains characters, letters, capitalization, and numbers. And you have to have a separate password for every account. Or the first thing we're going to talk about is two-factor authentication. This, when it came out, was one of the best things I saw. What happens is that you enter your login and password. The system sends you either a text message or an email or calls you to verify that you are who you say you are, because the probability of somebody stealing your phone or your email is fairly low. As good as two-factor is, somebody found a way of getting around it with text messaging. Is it common? Not very, but it does happen. So you could reuse the same password with two-factor authentication and take the chance that somebody's not going to hack your text message or email hasn't been hacked yet. So that's a good practice, but it's not perfect. And then there's something called authenticator apps. Everybody and brother seems to have come up with an authenticator app. And what it does is when you log in, it will go in based upon whatever authenticator it establishes, generate a code that is from the authenticator app. And you have to go into your authenticator app, get that code, which changes every minute, type that in, and that verifies that you are who you say you are. The problem is that some of them are not very user-friendly.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to say one of the things, and I don't remember who I was dealing with on the authenticator apps, is, I say, it says I'm sending you an authenticator app, except that the text came to me after it timed out. It took me like 10 minutes for it to finally, so I could get it in a timely manner.
That happens a lot.
Microsoft redesigned the authenticator app a couple of months ago. I still have it, but only because I need to get into my Microsoft Live account. And the way they do it now, it's a little bit different. I'm going to log into my Microsoft Live account. It comes up with a number like 10. And it says, go to our authenticator app and select this number from the list. And you go to the authenticator, and that's the way they've got that going now.
Adobe does the same thing with their authenticator.
Yeah, the Adobe one works though.
Yeah, it does.
The Google Authenticator works really well.
Use Google Authenticator for everything else.
The government now, many of the sites are switching to ID Me.
Now they're
Yes.
switching to my Ascent, AUTH. That's going to happen. Everything's going to happen by July. They're slowly doing it.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, another one. And
Well,
we lost that one.
auth is not an identifier. Auth is part of a protocol.
My
that's used.
auth.
My auth.
My auth.
Really? Okay.
Because I got the email like 6 months ago and I never done anything, and then now it says I'm prime military, so TRICARE for life. They was like, okay, that's going to happen in a month. Make sure you do it. And I was like,
Wait, the thing that's irritating about the government identifiers, there is login.gov and there's ID.me.
I think
Yeah.
When they first started it, you said you could use either one.
not-
I picked login.gov. Then I came across another site. You have to use ID.me. Are you serious?
I use ID.me because that works for TRICARE. It works for veterans. It works for DFAS. Thank you. Forgot about Social Security. Let's move along. Codes change, generally speaking, every 30 seconds. Some of them change every minute. Some of them, I swear, change it randomly.
Thing I've noticed on my RoboForm, my password manager, is it's now got the capability to add an authenticator app into its field. So I actually have the authenticator right inside the field with the password, so it'll automatically fill that.
Yeah, a lot of them are doing that. Passwords has not yet, because the authenticator app is being replaced by something which is much better. Your phone creates a code. The code keeps changing on purpose. It's better than two-factor authentication because it cannot be compromised. It's harder to use, but it is safer. But there's got to be a better way. It is not as cumbersome. It guarantees your security, and that's Passkeys. Now, I've had a number of people call me up and say, can I trust a passkey? What is a passkey? Should I use it? The answer is absolutely yes, because passkeys combine biometrics or a passcode to assure. If you have a computer that has a fingerprint reader, that it requires your fingerprint if you set it up that way, or Face ID, or you can enter a passcode. On this machine, it's a passcode I use to log in. That's the passcode. Since I rarely take this out of the house, I am fairly confident that my house is secure and that my passcode for my computer be difficult to compromise it. So I feel very comfortable. However, if I take this out, I use the fingerprint recognition. So unless you cut my finger off, it ain't gonna work.
In which case you got bigger problems.
Yes, I have bigger problems than you can't steal a passkey. It's wonderful. If you're given the option to use a passkey, because with a passkey, you don't need the password. It logs you in immediately. And I have it on a number of different accounts. We are going to demonstrate setting one up, and it's effortless. And I can tell you that the organizations are moving quickly on this. Before we show you setting one up, I want to tell you what's going on and why passkeys are so great. Passwords can be stolen, people reuse them, hackers love them, especially if you use a word out of the dictionary. That can be hacked easily, because what they do is they go and have a program that generates words until they get the one you used. The longer it is, the harder it is. The more non-word things, like one of my favorite ones that I used to use was capital P, the @ S, $, W, 0, capital R, D, exclamation point, exclamation point. Generating that one randomly would be very, very difficult. It was something I could remember. Now I even have a better one. That is a good password. Using ASDFG is not a good password. That is the row of keys. Or QWERTY, QWERTY, not a good password. Passwords are secrets you have to remember. And I'm sure that many of you that have multiple passwords have them stored someplace so you can remember them. We have password managers, like on the Mac passwords. You have Dashlane, you have 1Password, RoboForm, but those can be compromised. So passwords are the least secure of all things we talk about. Passkeys, no password is needed. I'm going to explain how this works. So bear with me. If you have any questions, ask them immediately. If you start to get a little nervous and start to shake and rattle, that's okay too. We're using 2 keys instead of 1 password. Your device creates 2 keys. One is your private key that only stays on your device. It goes nowhere else. And then it goes up and gets the public key. What it does is it puts these 2 together and it sends the private key stays only used to unlock your passkey. No one sees it, not even the website. It's a secret part of the passkey and nothing leaves the phone or the device. The public key is stored safely by the website, safe to share it even if stolen. It's a lock unless without your secret key, it can't work. So what it does is you take the private key and the public key together, you send that to the site. It stores that. So when you go to log in, you have to send that same code, which was mathematically derived, to the website. Yes.
Private key always stays on your device. Public key can be shared to anybody. It goes up to the device. You try to log in. What happens is a small file is encrypted by the public key and then sent to you. Your private key is the only key that could decrypt that message from that key pair. It's encrypted, and that is where proves that's you.
And it says, yes, I've decrypted.
And it says, yes, I decrypted it, and it has a little message that says back and forth. I like to do that. The whole thing about the public key is you don't care who knows, anybody can have the public key, because the way that these are designed mathematically, it's impossible to reverse engineer what the private key is for the public key. Just can't beat that. That's what makes this secure. This is the same technology that's used to secure websites, by the way. Sorry, John, I had to take this over.
No, you're the expert on it, not me.
I'll host for a few years. And that's what gets me about this is really PKI, public key infrastructure, without the infrastructure. We just decided to get rid of that part of it, use the part that's actually useful.
Yeah.
So does it have to have a biometrics element of it, or can you not have a biometrics element of it?
Yes.
It's best if it does.
No, I
Otherwise,
know.
it could use like my Windows stuff that doesn't. I don't have biometrics on my desktop, so
Yeah.
it just uses my Windows login for that.
Right.
But I can often do things like I can set it up so that it'll show me a QR code, and I can scan it with my iPhone. My iPhone uses biometrics,
Okay.
so then I can use that to log into my iPhone, and my iPhone will then authenticate me.
Now, is it just, it's just stored on the device? So if I use my phone for something versus using my desktop for something, do I have to use separate passcodes?
And there's the problem. You're right. Yes, the private key is specific to each device.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's what PKI, like the
But-
time access cards.
Yeah, I remember.
That's
Yeah.
why you can use
Okay.
one certificate for every device. These you have to have a certificate per device.
And what's interesting
Is sometimes I know that I use different browsers. Sometimes it says you do not have a passkey set up for this. That apparently has been fixed because now the passkeys are going to all my different apps from passwords. So I think that's been fixed. Password, which is the password manager on the Apple devices, now stores passkeys. If I go up to a site, it knows which device I'm on and uses that passkey.
That's the problem, is that would only work in the Apple world.
Yes.
Windows world, you need a separate.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so I have an iMac, and I have as my home page is MSN, and it's been asking me to set up passkeys, and I wasn't going to do it till okay. So I'm really considering ditching MSN as my home page and go to somebody else. I don't know who yet. Will I have to reset another pass?
Yes.
Okay.
It is
It will not transfer.
no, it is
Okay.
site dependent.
Site
specific.
specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
Site specific.
Thank you. Thank you.
And setting up a passkey is very easy. Yes, sir.
I'm trying to mentally wrap my mind around this, so please bear with me. The public key, anybody can know about, like Joe Hacker or whatever, okay? And my private key is local to my device, whether it's my
Yes.
laptop or my phone. Okay, so when the two comes together and it says, yes, I'm really me, then it goes back to the site requesting it and says, okay, you can open the door, correct?
Something along those lines.
Okay, so on its way back to the site after it's been validated, what stops it from getting snatched?
And this part I haven't looked at. Other than all being illustrated.
This is taking place after the meeting ended, and there was still some very big confusion about this. So I thought I'd try and clarify it. When you create your passkey the first time, you have to log in with your regular credentials, and then the application at the other end comes back and says, create your passkey because I know this is you. And then your application, which creates the passkey, goes up, gets the public key, and with your private key and that public key, it creates a token. That token is encrypted and sent to your login site. It gets that, says okay, and stores it. It's encrypted to begin with, and it decrypts it. So what's going across the line is always encrypted. So when you go to log in again, you take your stored token, encrypt it, send it to the login site, it decrypts it, looks at it and says, yes, this token is the same token I received before. Let's log him in. I hope that clarifies it for everybody. Thanks a lot. Passkeys are stored in passwords. To you, it seems seamless. Everything works just fine. Any device, you're always going to be able to log in once you set up your passkey. Behind the scenes, what's happening, I think, is that let's say you have a passkey set up for finance.com. Did on my Mac. I go to my iPhone, passwords sees that I have a passkey on my Mac, and it automatically sets up the passkey when you do it to log in. So from your point of view, it's seamless. You do not see that going on, that action going on. It sees that there is a passkey already, generates a new passkey, sends it to the site as a new thing without you seeing it at all. Am I 100% sure that's how it works?
Still use the same private key, even though it's not on that device. If
It's device dependent. A passkey is unique for each device.
Yeah.
Now,
so I'm wondering how that works because the password manager I use is across platform. It's available on any platform, including Windows, and it stores passkeys. I create a passkey and I put it in 1Password. Now I'm in the Apple ecosphere. I could use passwords, Mac, iPhone, password management, but I've used 1Password for so long before Apple did it that way. So if I had a Windows machine, I could still use 1Password and use those same passkeys to log into the site that I
Haven't done that. RoboForm's the same way. RoboForm's now storing passkeys, so I can log in because it doesn't. I can log in from any site because I have RoboForm synced to every device.
Yeah.
So the passkeys are synced.
So is it doing that same thing, you think?
Well,
You got to create a device
it could
specific one
be.
in the background?
it could be that they're storing the private key and using that on each device unique. So it thinks it's device dependent, but it's not.
For RoboForm, it's the way RoboForm works is it actually have the way RoboForm works is it actually is a website roboform.com is where it actually keeps the main vault and then it veers them out to every place that you've installed RoboForm as that you it's mirroring passkeys, I think. It's storing it probably on the website. That'd be my guess.
Yes.
See, we're not sure because they don't make this information public.
Somehow get around that device specific thing in some fashion, whether they're creating a new one on the fly in the background. You don't.
I'd be very surprised if they're using one private key for all devices.
So this is different than
But it works.
the PKI certificates that the military's been using for years.
The certificates are, I would imagine, I have not seen a passkey certificate. I'd love to find one so I can look at it.
Sure.
They're the same principle.
It's the
They don't have the same information.
Okay, it's the
The
same
whole thing with what PKI does or what the military does is they issued a single public-private key pair to each person.
Right.
Put that on the cap.
Right.
And then you had this huge set network of servers
Yeah.
that you would coordinate it across all the devices. It's difficult to administer and maintain, but the glory of it is that you only need one private pair of private public key pair for each person. This one you do away with the infrastructure, but the downside is you have to have a different certificate pair for each instance that you're using it in. So you could very well wind up with dozens of public private key pairs in your name. The whole thing is it's so automated, we don't care anymore. Because it's all happening behind the scenes.
So has the military looked at going to passkeys?
I have been away from that lab for 10
That's-
years, so I have no idea.
Okay. I was just kind of curious.
Yeah.
How long has passkeys been thought about, been used, or
Thought about or implemented? Okay. Thought about 20 years. Implemented last year.
last year?
Yeah. The first site that I knew of that used a passkey was Best Buy. That was the first one I'd even heard of.
First one I used was Amazon.
We were still meeting over at the Fairfield when you were talking about the FIDO protocol.
Yes. So yeah, they've been talking about it for years. Being able to implement it is a different story. They're getting more and more popular. I'm seeing about a third of the sites I visit is starting to use passkeys. Now, why hackers hate this? Because you can't compromise it. 100%. There's no secrets. Your password can be intercepted. A passkey without the private key, and believe me, you can't see the private key yourself. It is so hidden I don't even know where it's stored. 'Cause I know it's not stored in password itself.
Historically, it was stored in the browser. The browser had a vault. So,
But is that still the case? That's what's so great about this is that finally we're going to eliminate passwords. It is so nice because now you can log in easily. You don't have to keep remembering all these incredible, idiotic 16 character passwords that the government demanded. Why does it? Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, I'm trying to get past my concerns about biometrics. You know, like some people are really good in the kitchen.
We're coming to that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my concern.
It's well, it is not a concern. Trust me.
Okay.
This stops phishing because a fake site doesn't have your key combination, so it can't return it.
oh, they can have the public key, they can't have the private key.
Right. So when you do the validation, it says, that ain't my token. Passkeys lets you stop worrying. You can breathe at night. You can get rid of all the sticky notes you have all over your computer desktop, your walls, the mirrors, on the refrigerator. Layers of protection, strong passwords, two-factor authentication. You'll also see this referred to as MFA, multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor is two-factor authentication with more than one, meaning you get a text message, a phone number, biometrics. You have multiple choices. That's referred to as multi-factor authentication. Passkeys, which is your number one choice. Passkeys with a VPN is really secure. Okay, nobody can break into that. When you should use it, we talked about that. Use passkeys when available. Two-factor authentication everywhere else. Don't reuse your passwords unless you have 2FA turned on. Then you can.
The one thing though is while we're in this transition stage between passwords and passkeys, don't neglect your passwords because
Right.
I've only seen one website that actually gave you the option after you put in a passkey to remove your password. Every place else I've seen, you can use either one or the other. And as long as the option is there for a password, there's a vulnerability. So don't neglect your password.
Which site was that?
It was a long time ago.
I've never seen that feature. How biometrics really work. It's secured and designed to handle normal changes. There's no photo or actual fingerprint stored. It uses a secure mathematical model. Face recognition, it's not taking a picture of your face to compare it to. It's actually using an algorithm that is measuring areas on your face and creates basically a token that it uses every time you try and log in. It sees your face. That's why if you close your eyes like this, it says no. Or if you get colored contact lenses, it will say, that ain't you, because it registers what your face. Now, glasses on and off, 90% of the time it will recognize it. But I have the problem when I go into stores to Face ID for using my digital wallet that sometimes the angle is such that says, that ain't you. Enter your passcode. It doesn't store a photo. You cannot take a photograph of your face and use that to get past Face ID. Cannot happen. Originally, 20 years ago, it could. That is before, that's where they use stored images, but they don't do that anymore.
TSA store your image. You know, now they have the camera there when you go through the TSA line before you go to the.
No, it does not store your image. It uses a very, very sophisticated algorithm where the ones on our phone uses, I think it's 128 points. The TSA one uses, I want to say 512. I don't remember if it's 512 or 1024. It's one of those two. That one is incredible. My cousin worked on that system, but it does store a token. It's the same one that's used by almost all the federal agencies. When you see on NCIS going through face recognition, it's using the same one. Same with your fingerprints. It's not storing an image of your fingerprint. It's actually doing a mathematical calculation of your fingerprint. Plus, it is temperature sensitive. So if you try and put a dead finger, it won't work. That's why a lot of times when you go to try and use and it's cold, it doesn't work. That's because it's not registering enough heat. So it says, no, it's not validated. You have to do something different. Any questions so far? Sir?
I don't know how it's stored, but some people are really good in the kitchen and I'm not. So if I'm chopping up food and I cut my finger, so now nothing lines up, does that keep me out? Or I spend and it may not be obvious, but if I spend too much time in the sun and I'm no longer, my original complexion, does that?
It has nothing to do with your complexion. It has to do with the distance, among other things, the distance from here to here, from here to there, here to here, here to there, here to here, it takes those measurements. So you could be blue, paint your face blue. If all of a sudden you lost your eye, that changes the algorithm completely. So cutting your finger, as long as you wipe off the blood, if you leave the blood on there, yeah, it's not going to recognize it. But after you cut your finger and it's no longer bleeding, it's not just taking one, it's looking at a whole bunch of points on your finger. If it sees 75% of it's correct and it's seeing a scar, it'll say, okay, it's him, because there's too much of the fingerprint that's correct. Because fingerprints are really unique. But there's one that's even better. Your ear. Your ear is better than a fingerprint. Yes, sir.
What about the cosmetic surgery? Does that make a difference?
It can. It can. It depends on what you're having done. If you're going in and getting a facelift, probably not. If you're going in and getting a nose job, probably not. If you're going in and having your face restructured, yes. But it depends on what is being done. You can't make the general statement, well, yeah, any cosmetic surgery is going to change it. Yes, sir.
What about your eyelids?
Does it measure
Associated with
the
your eye.
eyelid stuff too?
Yeah.
Eyelids?
It won't do such things if you go in and get your eyebrows trimmed. It doesn't do that. If you close your eyes, it's too many points other than that. It just doesn't do one point. It measures 128. And so you'd have to not be recognized, I think it has to be over a certain number of points that it does not recognize. How many, I do not know. I can't find the standard.
On movie years ago, you know, a guy had his whole face reconstructed
Oh,
to show it as the person they wanted it to be.
Yes, if you do that, it's not going to recognize you because you're not the same person anymore. But small changes is okay.
Can't you just go in and redo it?
Oh, yeah, you can reset up your facial recognition. If you lose a lot of weight, you might have to reset it up. It depends upon how much your face has changed. If you have a beard and shave off the beard, depending upon how much of that beard covered your face, you may have to redo it again. But yeah, if somebody chops off your head and tries to use that for facial recognition, it won't work.
So if you wear glasses, you should keep your glasses on when you're doing it.
No, glasses, it ignores glasses completely.
Take your glasses off.
You can if you want to, but you don't have to.
Glasses
Yeah,
on
it's been so long since I said it. I don't remember if it asked to take your glasses off.
No.
Nice idea. I don't think.
One of the other things during COVID with the masks, on Apple's, they actually went in and changed the facial recognition software to ignore masks. Is that as secure? No. Because there is a chance that there'd be enough points, but they did it, and it's still, the feature is still there. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I meant to mention this question back in the Passkeys section. But since it's stored on your device, it's device independent, you know, so how is it creating that unique private key? Because I'm saying this with the history of, like, when you, back in the day, you bought software and you got registered. Okay. So what it did was it stored your model number and maybe serial number, whatever, and your hard disk. And that meant that, yes, this machine was registered for the software. So what happens is when your hard drive died, you got a new one and said, oh, you're not registered, because it put that together. So back, you know, so going back to the Passkeys, and it's device independent, you know, will this pose a problem?
No.
The device, you know, back in the day was manufacturer, model number, and hard disk serial number.
If you go and get a new iPhone, that pendency is not on the hardware, it's the software.
It resides on your device, but it's not locked to your device. It's not doing the whole thing with, oh, you got this motherboard, you've got this size hard drive. It's not doing any of that stuff. It's just that it resides on your hardware. You get a new computer, you can back up a website. It says, oh, you got a passkey. You want a passkey? Yeah, sure. Which that does make me wonder, though, how it's going to, once we're done transitioning, how we're going to issue you passkeys if you've never logged on to the site. Look at how that's going to work.
It's the software that generates the passkeys.
But how you authenticate yourself first, you're going to have to do it through either Apple or Microsoft.
Do it through the facial recognition, the fingerprint, or the passcode on your computer. The big problem is, like, if you go on to a computer other than your own, passkeys don't exist on it. You can't log into some sites that only use passkeys. Hats, glasses, beard, no beard, normally, yes, it'll still work.
I mentioned it somewhat dependent on the sensors that are being used to create the original algorithm. I know that Face ID on Apple devices got a LiDAR sensor, infrared sensor. It's making a 3D map of your actual head, your face. It's not like John said, you can't just use a flat photograph because it has to have that 3D information. If you have a beard, the LiDAR is going to penetrate the hair and actually measure where your skin is, not where the hair is. That's part of it.
Yeah, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, there can be exceptions. If you have a real big, heavy beard and you shave it off, it may not be able to register correctly. Lighting, you do have to have light for facial recognition. It doesn't have to be a lot. But if you go into a pitch dark room, it's not going to work. It does work at night very well.
FaceTime or Face ID works. It almost dark using infrared.
I think it'll go down to like 2 candle power. I think is as low as it'll do.
If you're in your bedroom and have a heart attack, you pick up your phone in the complete darkness. Can you call 911?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
911 emergency calls bypass everything. That's why on your phone it pops up. Is this an emergency? Yes, that does work. And please tell your friends if something happens to you, use your phone to get notify. I had a very good friend who didn't do that and he died because of it. He had his phone and never thought to dial 911. And is having a heart attack. Please pass that on to everybody you know. That's why I wear my watch wherever I go, because if I fall down, which I've been prone to do here lately, I have a way of contacting my wife immediately. And that is why my daughter and her husband both have phones on their watches that's independent from their iPhone. So in case something happens, they have a way of getting in touch with somebody. A lot of the times, I'll be doing something, my watch will come up and said, did you just fall? Do I need to call 911? Fingerprints. What if it doesn't work? All these systems have a backup. So you can always get in with your password or your PIN. And some of them use both. I know a lot of sites that I have to give my password, then it comes back with 2-factor authentication, then I have to enter my iPhone passcode, and then I finally get in. And those are normally financial sites because they want to be absolutely sure you're you. So somebody can't go in and start transferring money. Most programs allow you to put in multiple fingers. If you don't have fingerprints, then you can't use fingerprint recognition. On fingerprint recognition, if it fails the first time, try again. It can take up, I've seen it take up to 3 times before it actually catches. Yes, sir.
Like passwords, if you put in the wrong password, like X number of times, you get locked out. If you try with your biometrics and it doesn't lock you out also.
It depends upon the device you're on. I know Apple gives you 5 attempts.
They space out. After 5, it starts giving you a time delay before you can try another one.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
But after 10 failures, it'll
It
lock
locks you
your device completely.
Yes. And trying to get it unlocked is not easy. It's the full stolen device lockdown. And you quite often have to go to Apple to have it unlocked. So don't do that. Voice recognition, not as common as it once was, but it's still out there. Minor voice changes, usually not a problem, but not as reliable because voice recognition can be fooled by a recording. Background noise can make it fail. It has to be a relatively low noise environment. Now, I don't know of any current systems that use voice recognition, except on some phone calls where I'll say, we recognize your voice. If you have a choice, the least reliable is voice recognition. Are biometrics safe? Absolutely. It's stored on your device. It's not shared during any passkey logins. No one can get to it. It's protected by the hardware device. Even if somebody steals your phone, they cannot steal your face. As we have seen, to go in, let's say someone steals your phone and they take it and they go, well, I'm going to change the facial ID to be me. Well, guess what? You're not home or someplace the phone recognizes, lock you out. We've seen here on 2 times. Now, I've seen that because you normally set your phones up at your home. That's why I strongly recommend you do not set your phone up in the store. Go home and set it up. Because if you set it up at the store, that's going to recognize that store as a legal place to be. And you don't want that. Biometrics are convenience only. You don't have to use them. They are not mandatory. There's always a backup for them. And so use it. Bob and Linda are now secure. No more sticky notes. No more reuse passwords. And they're as happy as clams. Security is getting easier and easier. Most of us go back to when passwords were the only thing available. Then came in 2-factor authentication, which was a godsend. The authenticator was actually a stopgap measure between 2-factor authentication and passkeys. We needed something in between because passkeys were taking so long to implement. We'll see you all next month.
Thanks for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Also, you can see our playlist for other videos.